In a poll of Iraqis released this morning, sponsored by ABC News, the BBC, and the Japanese broadcaster NHK, we learned that at least 65% of Iraqis say the surge is not working, and 72% say the U.S. presence is making Iraqi security worse. This is troublesome.
So that's pretty much what Petraeus has to argue with, is the Iraqis themselves. 65% or 70% of them actually are saying that it's worsened rather than improved security the surge has. That was Representative Ike Skelton, who is the chairman of this meeting today, and I don't know. Petraeus is like saying, they go, well, at least I wrote it myself. What I'm about to read to you, I wrote it all by myself. Yeah, but didn't the president come see you in Iraq and tell you what you should write all by yourself? Yeah. So, Petraeus, today is the day. Tomorrow will be another day. September 11th, 2001 will be commemorate. I don't know what the right word for remembered. Tomorrow, and the Senate will be having testimony from General Petraeus and Ambassador Ryan Crocker, who, by the way, is supposed to be our diplomat. He's supposed to be doing all the busy diplomatic work that everybody keeps saying. There's not going to be a military solution. It's going to be a political one. That would be Ryan Crocker's job. And I don't see him, doing that job, because Petraeus sat there today and said, well, if we had more political will, then maybe, we could leave next summer. Saddest thing. I heard that, and I just said, that's it. That's the ballgame. That's his testimony. He's sticking to it. It's going to be next summer. I thought he was going to come. Didn't you think he was going to come and he was going to ask for 6 more months? He's not going to ask for 6 more months. He's asking for a year. And after a year, guess what? That's not a troop withdrawal either. After a year, he's saying maybe the surge can end. After a year, the surge can end. He's not saying people can come home in toto. He's not saying we'll have a withdrawal. He's not saying the war will be over, because everybody understands that this president's only desire with regard to this war is to preserve this war, not to win this war, certainly not to lose this war, but to preserve it for the very next president to deal with, because they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea what they're doing. And if you sit there and you go, but this president, of course he knows what he's doing. Look around your company. Just have a little look around. Look at the highest ranking guy in your company. Look at the medium guy in your company. Look at the low ranking guy. And just decide for yourself, do the higher ups, do the very high end in your company know what's really going on? Are they giving the best advice about how you can accomplish your tasks? How you can accomplish your tasks? I bet you the answer is no. It's the same with this freaking government, which is run like a corporation, which is what George Bush said he would do. He told you he was going to run it like a corporation, and he has. A really bad 21st century corporation that is in this business, whatever this business is, to steal, to just make the most money quarter to quarter, period, end of story. It's unbelievable what's going on. I can't believe what Petraeus is testifying to, that he says next summer, July 08, he might be able to suggest that the surge end. Well, I got news for you. That's not a surge then, is it? It's a permanent escalation of this war so that they can preserve it for the next president. I mean, and the numbers he's giving, the statistics, these are the most questionable statistics you've ever heard since Barry Bonds' career home run numbers. It's you know what it is? It's surge results on steroids. Not my surge. The military one. Every number that General Petraeus presents to Congress needs to have an asterisk beside it and a footnote going, your mileage may vary. Do you know? It's unbelievable. I mean, we went over this report that came out last week. This was in the Washington Post. And for those of you, I know when I said it, everybody was shocked and stunned. They had never heard this before. Which is, I have the transcript of Osama bin Laden, the real terrorist, the at-large, wanted, virulent terrorist who did attack us on 9/11, who is still free to go, free to move about, free to make videos. He's got a production studio apparently going on out there. But he's actually, in Osama's video, which the White House has vetted for us, he's actually recommending books for us to read. He wants us to read books. He wants us to read our CIA's books. He wants us to read Michael Scheuer's book. He wants us to read Noam Chomsky. Now, I will tell you that the transcript of what Osama bin Laden said is on my website, and you can read it for yourself, but it is 7 pages long. And I know very few people will read it because, obviously, Osama bin Laden does not understand that Americans do not read. And 7 pages long, if he understood America, he would be doing this in 30-second sound bites, but he's not. However, here is the real problem with Petraeus and his testimony today. His numbers are so cooked that I'd like to see Rachel Ray or anybody from the cooking channel present them because, I mean, there's nothing left to them. They've been cooked to death. And they actually, the Republicans stood there and they smeared the entire left in this country. You know, MoveOn.org had this amazing ad in the paper. I don't know if you had it in your paper. If you didn't, go to MoveOn.org. It's called Cooking the Books for the White House. And they stole my line, General Petraeus. So they called him General Petraeus or General Petraeus. Thank you. I'm glad you used it because I liked it too. I mean, that's why I said it. But so they have this big ad in newspapers across the country today, and it obviously says Petraeus has been wrong before. He was wrong on the weapons caches. He didn't protect the weapons caches. He was wrong on we would be out of there really quickly. He was wrong in 2004 when he said if we just had more troops, give me 30,000 more. He's just been wrong. The guy has never been right, and so they looked at the numbers he's presenting today where he's saying that there's been a 75% reduction in violence in Iraq. And truly, what came out in the Washington Post last week on the 6th of September was this little tidbit that the intelligence community is having its own problems with the military's calculation because the intelligence analysts are computing aggregate levels of violence against civilians for the National Intelligence Estimate, and they were puzzled over where the military was getting this information, where Petraeus was getting this information, and they looked at it very closely, and one senior intelligence official said to the Washington Post, well, here's what they're doing. Here's how they're getting to these 75% reduction in violence figures. If a bullet went through the back of the head, it's sectarian, and they count it. If the bullet goes through the front of the head, they say it's garden variety criminal activity, and they don't count it. So apparently, sectarian killers are Sopranos fans. They whack you in the back of the head. And Iraq's got a really big crime problem, which means we should be sending in the police. And a few CSI episodes, and everything will be okay in Iraq, because it's just some crazy criminality. That's what's going on there. But this is really stunning, that's how they're parsing the numbers. They're only counting certain kinds of death. If you were fighting with the American army and you killed somebody, they don't count that. If you were fighting Sunni against Sunni, they don't count that. If you're fighting Shia against Shia, they don't count that. They only count Sunni against Shia to the back of the head, not anything to the front of the head, and not those other intra-sectarian deaths that I've just enunciated for you. Now, the Iraqis, the reason why I opened up with Ike Skelton's comment that the Iraqis, 65 to 70% of Iraqis say that their security situation is worse since the surge, is because this was compiled by ABC News, the BBC, and NHK, which is a Japanese news organization. And their numbers show that in Baghdad, fewer people now describe themselves as being safe in their own neighborhoods. And that, you know how they're always counting Anbar as such a great success? Well, that happened before the surge, I hate to tell you. And I don't know why they won't tell you that, because it's really kind of creepy that it's a knowable. But the percentage of people in Anbar who feel good about their security is very small. It's 38%. This is what, we're going into the 5th year, 6th year of this thing? And it's like 38% in Anbar go, it's better now. But we left Anbar. So withdrawal worked, not the surge. It's all such a bunch of bull. It's just the most amazing pack of crap I've ever heard in my life. And this is going to go on for 2 days, on the eve of September 11th remembrance and on the day of September 11th. And they'll probably combi it up with the release of Osama bin Laden's videotape. These people are shameless, really. I got news for you.